Hi everyone. This is MiDiGo webinar November 2022. We have actually invited today Professor Natalija Perišić from University of Belgrade. Actually, she currently works at the Department of Social Policy and Social Work, and she's also interested in migration studies, and today she presents us about irregular migration issue, especially irregular migration phenomenon to Europe. So we will talk about the case of migrants transiting Serbia from the MENA region. So Professor Natalija Perišić, welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Professor Sunata, very much. It is a great honor for me to be here today and to be able to present what is going on and what is happening with migrants from the MENA region, from the region of Middle East and North Africa after they transit your country, Turkey. First of all, when irregular migrants exit Turkey and go to Greece, the next country they enter is Northern Macedonia and then Serbia. And after that, they go currently either to Bosnia and Herzegovina or Croatia. And after that, or already then, they go to the EU. So these corridors are very dangerous, and these corridors are actually today in the spotlight for many, many reasons that we all know. But before that, I would like to add just a couple of background information regarding Serbia. It is one of the countries of the Western Balkans corridor and region, and it is actually characterized by all possible types of migration, the same as the whole region of the Western Balkans. So Serbia and all other countries, we have huge emigration, we have very modest immigration, and we have many, many transit migrants from the MENA region. So, what is specific about the Western Balkans corridor? It is that it actually became very busy after 2012. The reason for that was because it was one of those corridors which were the easiest to transit. This is not to say that there were no dangers, on the contrary, but compared to the Mediterranean sea routes and some other routes to the European Union, this was one which was very, very dynamic and actually very fast, because the moment irregular migrants exit Greece, they were able to travel in only 1 to 3 days to the European Union, because Northern Macedonia and Serbia and Bosnia and Macedonia, all countries outside the EU, were cooperating, and they were actually enabling migrants during this period to travel their countries free of charge, either by bus or by train, to get the European Union. So, as you understand, all these countries of the Western Balkans region, which are outside the European Union, including Serbia, they had their idea that they are transit, that they are corridor, that the irregular migrants are not here to stay, and that they are encouraging migrants to transit and to go to the European Union. And this situation was, let's say, rather smooth, up to the so-called migration crisis, which was actually in place for this part of Europe from the mid 2015 to the March 2016, when the European Union and Turkey signed their deal, when the irregular migrants were not effectively stopped, but their numbers decreased significantly. For example, during this period of migration crisis, around 1 million irregular migrants transited Serbia and other countries of the Western Balkans corridor. After that, the number of irregular migrants decreased, but also the length of their stay prolonged. So they are now in Serbia and other countries of the Western Balkans for longer periods, and their transit is not smooth as previously, and it poses some challenges for the countries. So there were a lot of challenges in terms of accommodation, in terms of social support, but the things were moving. But then COVID happened, and what was actually on the scene was a total paradox regarding migration, because COVID made total stop to the movement of people. Actually, regarding irregular migrants in these countries, there were some other very dangerous things. First of all irregular migrants which were previously able to move freely throughout the countries were gathered, put into accommodation centers. Around accommodation centers, there was army with guns and all that kinds of things, and irregular migrants were not able to move out of the accommodation centers. So there was a lot of tensions just because of the need of the people to transit. But what has happened after the COVID restrictions arose, and what has happened when the irregular migrants were able to move out of the centers? Their movement started to be a little bit slower, but still you can see on this slide different years of the numbers of asylum seekers. Every person, every irregular migrant who enters Serbia, he has to be registered as an asylum seeker in order to be able to move freely in the country. Out of these numbers, only around 20 people got their asylum approvals. And this is totally paradoxical, but the purpose of applying for an asylum was just to be able to move freely around the countries. So you can see exact numbers of asylum seekers in Serbia. On the previous slide, you were able to see the numbers of people who were asylum seekers in the whole of the Western Balkans. These sources are the national sources. There were some misunderstandings between different sources, but still these are rather reliable. And this photo on the bottom, that is my authorship. Here you can read "Welcome to Serbia." This is between Serbia and Northern Macedonia, and you see these horrible wires which were set for the irregular migrants, and it is really paradoxical when you see them and then see this sign, "Welcome to Serbia." But Anyway, let's see how the things have been moving. All the countries of the Western Balkans have their aspirations to become fully fledged members of the European Union. So, and Serbia, among other, has a candidate country status. So, because of that, all the countries have been harmonizing their legislation, among other things, regarding in the area of irregular and all other kinds of migration. But what has been actually happening in the practice or in the field is that all of the countries have been actually putting most of their efforts into the improvement of their border control systems, suppression of irregular and illegal migration, and also in the fight against human trafficking. Because what has been really happening in the field is that the systems are not empowered and not totally able to handle the whole asylum procedure. Also, there are many things that are implemented as per the law, but actually that implementation confronts some basic needs of irregular migrants. For example, the standards of living of migrants in different centers differ. Also, they are different in different countries. And one thing is very simple. All the accommodation centers were constructed for very short-term stay of irregular migrants, and now some of them are virtually for years, and they just cannot fulfill their basic needs. And because there are so many migrants who are vulnerable in general, those who are additionally vulnerable are, let's say, under the radar. And it goes first for children who are unaccompanied and separated, and it also go for the victims of violence, which is totally underreported, not only currently but in the past, regarding irregular migration and Serbia. So what are the most pressuring challenges or problems in Serbia and other countries of the Western Balkans region alike? It is integration, and these are public discourses. In general, Serbia has very weak integration mechanisms, not only for the domicile population, which is vulnerable, but even more for the migrants. And educational integration and inclusion is at its best, but all other types of integration, including the integration of the labor market, which is very weak in Serbia, is very bad. And another thing, even more pressing, are public discourses. They are flawed with xenophobia, fear from migrants, and so on, and they really are threatening for the migration. So what in the future? What is next? Very huge problem is potential economic downturn as a consequence of COVID and all the developments in Ukraine and Turkey. And for that reason, and because of potential austerity measures in Serbia, there will be even less funds for migrants. Also, because of a Serbia's ambiguous positions towards Russia. The European Commission is not happy and started saying that the EU funds will be not available anymore for Serbia. So there is a huge threat that the migrants will be left out. Integration will stay the biggest concern, whatever happens in the future. And of course, it will be very helpful to have a regional common strategic framework, what to do and how to handle integration and all other sorts of challenges. Thank you very much. This would be the most basic.
Okay, actually, thank you very much, Professor Perišić. This is the tema, irregular migration, and this tema is very complex, you already mentioned, and also you underline some new situation, new condition after COVID-19, and the whole process, because we know, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, actually, we really busy with irregular migration issue. And this rota, this Western Balkan rota is very critical in the last decade. So you actually explain us about all these details, especially COVID-19 effect, impact, and EU-Turkey refugee deal, and this whole issue is very critical. But still, you also mention about human rights of irregular migrants is still very critical, and migration management is not only try to stop or challenge to irregular migration and regularize all this stuff, but there are also, this is also a European value, human rights, and we should always take human rights issue into our consideration. Okay, thank you, Professor Perišić.
Thank you.